Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Brett, and we are this Sunday. It's gonna be hot today, and it is the 6th of July. So we are in what we like to call here in the southeast of the United States the dog days of summer. It gets hot, it gets super hot. We get to the point where like all your instincts sort of tell you to just stay inside. Don't go outside. Dangerous out there. you know. Anyway, so we're to the point where we have lots of bugs. We walk around, they sort of dive bomb your eyes, try to get inside of your eyes. It's just no fun right now. But it's like very energetic. You get a lot of energy this time of year, a lot of sunlight. You know, so it's kind of nice. But you got to make the best of the situation. It is 9:45 a.m. I think it's like currently probably like I would say probably 83 degrees Fahrenheit would be my guess, and probably feels like 90. So let's see what we got. So it is 79 degrees when I hit. I think when I hit play, it'll show up in here. Yeah, 79. It feels like 91. So it was 4 degrees off on the actual temperature, and it feels I was 1 degree off. I think I said 90 a second ago on that. Um, so ask a pro, how long does $1.5 million last in retirement? Yeah, so this lady's a pro apparently, and she can tell you how long $1.5 million will last in retirement. I call BS because obviously there's a lot of factors like and literally millions, probably more than 1.5 million factors that go into determining how long $1.5 million would last you in retirement. So there's that. Anyways, so I remember. So I started this journey that we are on, that some of you have chosen to go on with me. I started this journey because I was between jobs, and in between jobs, I decided I was going to deliver pizzas. And what was interesting about delivering pizzas for me is that I had delivered pizzas from 1986, maybe even 1985, probably 1985, and all the way to 1996. I took a couple of years off while I was in the Navy, but basically, I started. You had to be 18 years old, so I started delivering pizzas when I turned right around when I turned 18, and then I went in the Navy for a couple of years, and then I delivered pizzas, and I was able to raise a daughter. I was raising to pay for a home to live in, delivering pizzas. That was like a actual job that you could actually pay your bills with. Now, where I live now, I do not believe you would be able to actually pay survive even by yourself on the amount of money that like maybe if you had like three roommates or something like that, you might be able to squeeze by. Now, if you just move a little bit north of me, your chances of being able to survive on pizza income would go up, mostly because we have a lot of strict car rules around here, automobiles. So the way basically I used to make it back then is I would literally buy what was called a Ford Escort. It was like the cheapest car that Ford made at the time, and I would buy one for like $1,000. That was like 20 years old. Usually, it was in Orlando, Florida, so usually the air conditioning was broken, and it was like on its last legs, and they were kind of like this car will be lucky to last another 200 miles on it, and I would generally get a couple years out of it, just babying it, and then sell it for like $500, and I would deliver pizzas with that. I don't think any of those cars would pass emissions today, so this wouldn't be feasible. Now they do not have emissions rules north of us a little bit, maybe 50 miles north of us. Once you get outside of, I believe the county above us, Cherokee County, has emission rules, but the county above them, I don't think has emissions rules. So, like, if you lived up there and then traveled down here to where I live, delivered pizzas down here, and then went back up there, and there were actually a couple people that did that at the pizza delivery place. But the thing was what was interesting about it is how much the actual job changed. And one of the things that was a problem in the job was that, um, like, you would deliver through the night, and then at the end of the night, they would kind of just throw a bunch of data at you and be like, "Here's your money," or "You owe us $10," or whatever. But like, you couldn't really, you couldn't get really like a report of what you had delivered. You didn't really, and the way you do it, it was really hard to keep track of what deliveries you'd taken and how much you made and what your tips were and all that. So it was very difficult to actually true up what you deserved and all that. And so sometimes there was mistakes that were made that where like they would, um, charge you for a run you didn't make, or like maybe there was a run that ended up having to be free or something like that, and they would still charge you for it and stuff like that. And it was very difficult to keep track of it. So my idea was I was going to make like a, and the thing is your hand, like you're either driving, like you're either driving or you're, but your hands are always busy. You don't really have much use of your hands because you're either you're pretty much driving or you're inside doing stuff. And so if you take like let's say 3 deliveries and then you came back, it was difficult to keep all that straight. And then at the end of the night, you didn't. So, anyways, I thought, oh, it would be really cool to have like a voice. I knew there was a voice API. It'd be nice to have a voice application where you push a button, you say what your delivery was, give it the information that you want, like through voice, like, uh, boom, it was a $10 or $20. I got a $3 tip. Boom, just what the order ID number was, ID, blah blah blah, and fill out your records while you're driving, because you do have some time where you could just like push a button and talk because you're mid driving or sitting in traffic or whatever, but you didn't really have time. So that was my general idea. But when I started trying to build the app, I couldn't because I didn't really understand how the technology worked at all. Now, fast fast forward, it's been probably a year and 3 months, year and 4 months since then. So I've been actively working on learning the voice API and all that, and the actual application that I wanted to build, the way I wanted to do it. Because so another big piece of it was that I was going to use one of my old devices, like an old phone, and use that for it. So that is not feasible. Absolutely 100% not even feasible. And the reason it's not feasible is because this is a cloud solution. I've never dealt with cloud. Like, I've never really dealt with cloud via browser, cloud, no backend, just pure front end based applications. Like, that concept just didn't even exist in my mind. But that means one critical thing that makes what I wanted to do not feasible. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm like 99.9% sure, and I plan to be 100% sure at the end of this video. And the reason it's not feasible is because you have to have connectability to connect to the cloud, and my old device did not have, it wasn't, it was an old device that I don't have like 5G or 4G or any kind of connectivity on. So when I was driving around, I wouldn't be able to make use of the voice API. And so I want to test that theory. And what I'm going to do is, okay, so let's do this. Let's go to discrete and let's just say hello. I think they generally have that working. Yesterday we saw that the Google Cloud was a little bit buggy, so we'll see. Hello. All right, so that's working. It gave us 5 results. Boom. All right, so what I want to do is first thing I want to do is just get off of the internet. So you can't really see it, but on my screen what I'm doing is I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to disable. I guess I can go into airplane mode. So that would be like another good example. Like, one of the things I want to do is build like a ability to build voice flashcards with voice. Well, I could imagine someone saying, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go on a flight. It's going to be like a 10-hour flight. I'm going to work on voice making flashcards while I'm on. I'm going to read this book, and then while I'm reading the book, I'm going to make flashcards so that I can remember the things in the book a lot better and stuff like that. So I'm going to go on a flight." Well, you don't have access. If you're in airplane mode, you can't. So I'm gonna put my laptop into airplane mode. So I think that means I do not have internet. So I will double check that by going to Chat GPT. Yeah, see, no internet. Okay, so now let's try this. Hello. And as you see, nothing ever came back. Um, so basically, you cannot use this application unless you have an active connection to the internet, which then has an active connection to the Google Cloud. If you do not have access, if for some reason in the whole chain of communications you don't have access to the Google Cloud, you cannot use it. So now I'm going to turn that back on because I wonder, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I could conceivably see that now we're completely jacked up. The whole system is like, I don't know if anything even showed up in the, let's look at the console before we do that. So we didn't really get anything useful. Let's try it again. Hello. Yeah, see. So it just kind of failed silently behind the scenes. Um, Not ideal for sure. It would have been at least nice in the console for it to have said, "Hey, I can't connect to the internet, whatever." But anyways, now I've turned my that back on, so let's just double check, make sure I still have internet connection. And then there we go. And then let's go back here. Hello. Yep, and now we're back. Um, so, and I have done this before. Like I've literally gone to interviews where they were going to bring me on as a full time, not a full time, but like a contract developer, pay me some good money to come in, and then we chat for an hour. And during our hour, we find out that whatever they're trying to do is not even feasible. And then they're just like, okay, well, thank you so much. This was good. We'll get back to you. And then I never hear back. Um, I even had one time where we'd done the whole interview, blah, 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 blah. They made me an offer. I think this was for a full time position. I was getting in my car to drive. I was getting ready to go in my car. They gave me a call. I had a little chat with the hiring manager. We kind of talked about some feasibility things. Then I got in the car. I was backing out. And then, like when I was halfway there, my cell phone rang and they're like, you know what? We decided to go a different direction. And it was because whatever they were trying to do just wasn't feasible. I didn't really, like in retrospect, now I understand that. I didn't really understand that. But basically, I had completely sabotaged myself. Um, I feel like it would have been wrong to take the job that wasn't even like possible to do the solution. But I don't know. That's a mixed thing. And a lot of times, like, they can pivot. You know, they can find ways to pivot and stuff. So, you know, anyways. So that is that. So yesterday we were working on continuous, and we got these little arrows moving, and then we also got, I think we got um, the transcripts to look a little bit better, and I think that is that. I think we're all done with that. Let's try it though. What do I like to do over here? I like to say like, oh, I was really enjoying that what, when, where, why. So let's try that. What, when, where, why, how. This is just I love you too. This is just unbelievable though. Like how, why does it have two wheres? And then see, so it's definitely acting different today than it did yesterday. Yesterday, and it's acting better today than it did yesterday. So I don't know if they have logs and stuff on their side that's fixing things and all that, or what. But this is still a problem. Like the double wheres is weird. I don't know why I would think we said where twice. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Rhett. Did I forget your nut? Did I forget your nut? All right, let's give her a nut. There you go, baby. All right. And then why? Why did it put a question mark there? Why? What is that all about? And this is like something that you just could never have. You never ever could have predicted that that Rhett would do that, or that computers would start acting like this. Like, this is weird. This is just a very very strange, like you write code and then it does something different than what you, from day to day it does different stuff. The same exact code does different stuff, and um and then you get really strange results. Like in one, like we said, 5 words, 5 clear common English words, and one of them decided to take only one of them, and they're all could be conceived of as questions, and for some reason that one put a question mark. One of one of the 5 words, 2 of the 5 words gave multiple results, and one of the multiple results was 2 wheres. It returned it the same word twice, and one of the multiple results returned punctuation. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. And then we can kind of step through and see like what different things are. So I guess this was before I said how. Um, so it came back with the Y. It was right, but it was like 099. And then it came back with 97% that I said Y that wasn't a question, and 93% that I said Y that was a question. That makes no sense. Double where, single where with very low. Like, how is it 93% confident that I said where twice? Or, and is that even what that means? Am I even like reading that properly? Um, and I think these are all little bugs. So the one that was, I think the weirdest one was Y. So let's refresh. Let's just for fun and go Y. 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 Okay. Nothing in a 0% confidence. So these are our results. And yeah, that's weird. This thing's being a weirdo. So, anyways, yeah, I feel like the technology is very incomplete, very unstable, um, but it is very, very powerful. So, you got to balance that. Is it ready for like prime time now? Not at all. Could you use it for something, for stuff? Yes, you could definitely use it for stuff. Um, but it is definitely not a prime time. Do the people who have paid probably hundreds of millions of dollars to get all this stuff to work think it's ready for prime time? Yeah, they probably do. Are they being completely and utterly deceived by everybody in the chain below them? Yes, they are being completely conned. Um, do the people below them have any choice but to completely con the people above them? Probably not. They've probably been sort of cornered, and you know they're probably making. I don't know. Like, I can imagine a scenario where they're all making multi six-figure incomes with massive mortgages and kids in fancy schools, and the people above them think that they have this rock solid technology when it's not. It's not a very solid, but they can't say it because they don't want to be like me on their way to the job, finding out that they talk themselves out of a job. They don't want to go up there and say, "Oh, by the way, all this technology we have, it doesn't really work. It's not super reliable." So that's just the reality that we kind of get ourselves in as humans. But fortunately, that's not my problem. I got plenty of problems. That's not one of them. Thank goodness. So what I want to do next, I think, is basically add the ability to create a college, a pop up, Now, we have been seeing this here, and we do have, there's two things. One, we've been seeing this, and we've really dug in. I think we spent a couple, maybe 3 videos, doing nothing but trying to figure out how to fix this, and then get it to fix, and then it breaking. And I think the problem is what happens is, like, when I click on this button here, this thing gets focus. But then what happens is, if you look behind, if you do an inspect on this, we have this overlay container, which makes it impossible for the browser, the way browsers have been set up now, for the browser to have focus on this guy right here. And we have it where it puts focus on that, or at least we attempted to do that. Well, it's upset because it's saying, hey, you had focus on something that couldn't have focus anymore, which will really screw up the screen readers. Now, what's really funny, and not in a humorous way, but really in more of a like crazy way, is that the main reason I used Angular Material is because it supposedly takes care of all these sort of keyboard dealing with screen readers, that kind of stuff. It's supposed to take care of all that for you, and I only have this problem because of that. So they have never figured out in Angular Material how to do that. And there's another probably perfect example where, like, the underlings are probably reporting up to the top that, oh yeah, no, like, our stuff is perfect for screen readers and blah blah blah. And then reality is you get this warning. Now, I do not know, and I don't know if this is a what this is, if this is a warning or that. And then the other thing is, okay, so it is a warning because this says understand that warning. So I think, and then the other thing is, I don't know if this would happen in runtime if you get this warning. So, or if it's just the fact that we're in development mode. So turn on console insights and settings to receive AI assistance to understand. So then there's a perfect thing. Like, it's not telling me what all the, I don't know what all the possible things that, like, I don't understand. There's no way for me to understand what all I'm actually agreeing to when I turn on console insights and settings. Like, who knows? Who knows what I'm doing? So, like, you just kind of have to be careful. Anyways, let's go ahead and get rid of this result component on line 41 of the continuous result component. So that's the HTML. So let's come over here and go to line 41 and get rid of our result here. And while we're at it, we might as well put our semicolon up there and rebuild. It shouldn't make any difference because all we did was get rid of a console log, and we want to get our settings. We want that settings to work over here. So what happens right now is we go there and we click on that. So we are basically, we've sort of finished one chapter, and now we're going to another chapter. And basically what we want to do is we want to add this ability. Now, the one thing I didn't realize when we did this is I didn't know if the settings were the same for continuous and discrete. And they are. They're exactly the same. So that's the first thing I want to get done. Then the second thing I want to get done is I want to add another, like, text area where we can add grammars. So we could play with the concept of grammars. I believe, and I don't know because we can't really try it out, I believe that, well, we could try it out in the code, but I'd rather just wait till we actually have it working. That we can get a little bit more reliability and control with the application if we add grammars. So the why would work a little bit better. Why? See, I don't know if we added, can we add a question mark to a grammar? Why question mark? So then, and so then it would respond with why. It is weird that it only has a count of one. could we? And it's also weird that it didn't think I said why. Let's try that. Why? So I said Y, the letter Y, and it came back with Y, and it gave 76%, and it didn't give any alternates. Let's try the letter Y. The letter Y. So it did know that when I said Y, that I meant the letter Y when I put it in this context, and it gave a much higher thing. But the problem is yeah. So that it gave a second thing with the exact same confidence, as far as I could tell, saying the letter Y. So I think this is a perfect example of, like, if I would love to try setting a grammar where the only thing in the grammar is WHY, and see if, or no, the letter Y, just the letter Y, and then say Y, and see if it shows up, what shows up. You know, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to find out. But anyway, so that will be the next thing, and I would like to get the grammars. So basically, now that I know that they're kind of identical, I would rather just, instead of um, change that to update settings, and just use the same one. And I think that this thing might actually be in a inside of, like, I think I architecturally I may have put it inside a discrete. Um, and this is kind of like a lot of times when you get a new task to do, like at a job, the very first thing you get, first thing you need to figure out is what the heck component am I looking at, and where the heck does it come? So it's called app discrete dialog is the name of this component. So first of all, we probably should rename it to app settings dialog. And this is like sort of one of those things where, like, if we were on a team and some people, they had some people working on discrete and some people working on continuous, this is very high risk of really screwing another developer over by, like, if they're doing a bunch of changes to this upgrade. Like, let's say we had two stores going right one time, and one is the continuous team creating the settings, and they're like, oh, the settings are the same. We should, instead of maintaining two different settings, let's just move them. Let's just make them the same. And then the other one is, oh, we're going to add grammars, and they're on the discrete team, and they aren't even aware that the continuous team. So I could see the continuous team saying, all right, well, we're just going to rename this thing and move it and refactor it and blah, 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 blah. And then the discrete team, they have a story where they're adding grammars to something that is you deleted. And then you're going to have a massive and crazy Git conflict. So, and that's one of the things that's just even hard to even explain. And I guess this is actually a really good time to do a commit. So anytime I do a commit, I like to go to package first, see what we've done here. So we did generate two components, which was the whole point of the task. And then anytime I go to a package, I like to close all others. That's just sort of one of my little kind of things. All right, so I think that looks good. Let's go to our app component.html. I think that looks good. And this is a good time to sort of just think about, like, how much you learned. I definitely learned a lot. All right, so we added routes. Oh no, we only added one route, and that makes sense. The biggest reason I added routes is just so that whenever I was working, when it would refresh, it would just refresh to the same page that I was on, instead of me having to click and get through the tab to where I wanted to be. So this is where we split the continuous and discrete result signals. So that's funny, right? That's a funny thing, because we used to have one signal, and then we found out they're different, and they're different in such a way that we need to split them. So when I made my guess originally to build this thing and architect it, I architected it with one result. Now I did make another guess and during architecture, and that's That's to have two different settings dialogues, and we only need one. So I guessed wrong twice on that. Um, and that unwillingness to admit that you guessed wrong, or even to conceive of the possibility that you can guess wrong, can really lead you to some really screwy code. So I added a Boolean for continuous recording. I wonder if I even use that. I think that's a very good question. So let me do a search on this. It looks like I do use it because oh yeah, I do. I remember it now. I definitely use it because that's how I know whether to go down the path of creating a discrete, uh, packaging up the data that result data back into a discrete, something discrete can handle, or something that continuous can handle. I remember now. Oh yes, I remember it well. Yeah, so this is where I'm using it. Oh, but I don't actually looks like I don't actually use it. It looks like I actually use the value. So maybe I don't use it. There's a great song that I used to hear when I was a little kid that I probably literally have not heard in 30 or 40 years, where it's a guy and a girl singing to each other, and he keeps talking about stuff that they had over their lifetime, and then she keeps correcting him, and then he keeps saying, "Oh yes, I remember it well." It's a very cute song. Okay, yeah, so I'm not even using that. Not even using that, dude. What are you even doing there? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I actually use the actual truth to determine if we're in continuous or whether we're in discrete. I think all this code looks really good. Um, this is a very different and easier life choice that I've made here to not have unit tests, because this process in my other project is incredibly intense. Like I'm like rewriting everything all the time to accommodate the unit tests, and I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it or not. I like it though, so it's kind of one of those things where I really enjoy it. So okay, so this is upset about something. Interesting. So over here, I'm using it, and in the continuous component. Oh, okay. Never mind. I do need that. Thank you, Angular. I don't know. Oh, so I must set this in the actual component. Again, if I think it's probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea to do it that way. Probably not a big deal. Like this application is sort of a learning application that is going to get thrown away. I really probably should have like a function in this service that sets and unsets this, and then I wouldn't have this issue. But I'm guessing that in my continuous component, I actually set that to true or false. Yeah, not a great idea, not the end of the world. I could spend 15, 20 minutes getting that all straightened out for absolutely no benefit. So I'm not going to. Would I, if I was working at a place, would I? Yes, absolutely. There's no way I or anyone should ever let that get through a PR. But, you know, you when you're working at a place, unless, and then that's again, like let's say you were just building like an application that they need to use one time so that they can push a button and make something happen, and it's all and then you're going to toss that application and never use again, then you probably would be fine. And that's kind of like what this application is. Like as soon as we're done with it, we're going to move on to building the actual implementations that we want to do. And right now those implementations are a flashcard building application and a say hello application. So I think Saturdays are going to be flashcard and Sundays are going to be say hello, as soon as this one's done, which I think this is going to be done in like probably June, July, August. By the end of August, it'll be completely done. And then, like, I had built one that was a vanilla JavaScript version of this, not nearly as nice as this one, but it's vanilla JS. Um, and like, I've never looked at it again. So I wouldn't be surprised if I never look at this again. But I also wouldn't be surprised if I bring this thing up every day when I'm working on that other one, just so I can see, like, now how does that work? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, let me look at the logs. Oh, let me tweak this so that I get this other information in the logs. I don't know. I might end up using it every day. I think that looks fine. I think that looks fine. Yeah, when I first started coding this stuff, this looks good. Um, we would build stuff literally as throwaway code. We were just constantly, like, we knew we were going to be rebuilding it every year because the browsers were just changing all the time. Like, when I first started coding for the browser, not all browsers even supported images. And I feel like I remember some browsers supporting bitmaps, and now so everything was just changing so dramatically, so fast, that there was no way that you would write code that would that was you were expecting this hold up time. We get rid of that comment. Hold up over time. Um, and then I remember this, like, okay, so one huge thing I remember was when there was this QA guy, and he was really stuck in his ways, and he um, absolutely believed that any application you should be able to turn off JavaScript, and in the browser, that used to be a common thing people would do, is they would turn off JavaScript, so JavaScript wouldn't operate at all, and you'd be able to, and the application should still work with JavaScript turned off. And I remember that was such a battle. Um, like, he literally threatened to quit. He didn't quit, but he threatened to quit if we didn't make the application work without JavaScript. And it was just like, this application requires JavaScript. It's not going to work without JavaScript. Um, that was such a big deal. Um, and then I remember a time when people expected all applications to work offline. So if you don't have an internet connection, it should work. And then I remember when people expected all applications to work with really, really slow internet, like 28.8 internet connections, which is like so insanely slow. And people get stuck in those ways. Like, it has to work in this situation that doesn't exist anymore. And that's kind of like, and then remember working at this one place where they had literally just built everything in something called GWT. I think that's what it was called. And basically, this was like a Google product that you could write all your code in a language. Maybe it was Java, or maybe it was like a different language that's a lot like Java that compiles into Java or something like that. But you could write your entire application in some object-oriented server-side language, and it would actually create a HTML, CSS, JS application from that. I believe it was called GWT. And they had spent like 4 years and like millions and millions and millions of dollars building this thing out. And then Google quit supporting GW2. I think that's what happened. And then what happened was, because then they brought me in, and it was an Angular JS application, which they spent millions and millions of dollars on this Angular JS, this enormous Angular JS project. And right when I was there, while I was there, Google decided they weren't going to support Angular JS anymore. And it was just like I remember like 5 people just saying, I will never do browser work again. That's it. I'm done. I'm done working on the browser. Screw the browser. Browser is stupid. Like, they literally completely abandoned HTML, JS, all that stuff because of that decision. That actually, there's an Angular documentary, and that is they acknowledged that they really screwed the pooch when the way they rolled out their fact that they were gonna completely abandon something that people had spent millions of dollars on. And They say, oh, we think all the time about how we never want to do that again and blah blah blah, but they're doing that exact same thing, exactly that exact same thing with unit tests. They're like, yeah, no, we're not going to support it. And it's even worse because with AngularJS, at least when they said we're abandoning it, they told us what we were going to. Now they're like complete, I don't want to call them a name, but they're so insensitive in that they're like, oh, there's one of three we might go to. You know, you should try them out and just tell us what you think. It's like, are you effing kidding me? Do you know how many hours people spent and how many millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars companies have put into their unit tests? And then, and you guys were like, you need to do unit tests, and they all listen to you, and now you're just like, oh yeah, we're depreciated it, and we're not going to tell you what we're going to go to. It's like, are you kidding me? So they didn't learn a thing. They didn't learn a darn thing. But anyway, so here we go. Voice interfaces and all that. And here we go. And get status. And I don't remember what video this is. This would be video. This is Web Analyzer. Video 113. Status. Let's look at what we got. What do we have? I always like to look at everything that we have. Just make sure there's nothing really weird in there. Okay, then I feel like it's a very positive thing. Like it's a good smell. It's not a horrible smell if this isn't the truth, but this is a good smell is if you can do a get at plus pot period. If you can just say everything I have, go ahead and add it. There are a lot of places that you can do that. And there's a lot of places where you can't. There's a lot of places where they are like, oh, when you're working in local, you need to tweak this file, and you need to have that file, and you need to do this and that and this. So you can't do a get add plus because you have a bunch of stuff, and you have to carefully go through everything and make sure that what it is that you want to actually commit and what is there just for your local use. That is not. I've worked at plenty of very, very professional places that have very, very robust and solid code that you have to tweak, and you can't just do a get app plus because they have stuff. Those places generally think that that's how it is everywhere. That is not how it is everywhere. Lots of places you could do a get app plus, and they've worked around everything you want that you are dealing with locally, so that you don't have to sort of do that. So, anyways, I'm not strongly opinionated on it. It wouldn't be one of these places, one of those things that if I went in a place and they had that, I would be like, ugh, I don't know about that. Like if you go into a place and they're just like deeply embedded in XML, and especially, and this, I've seen this happen. I've been through this where you go to a place, they do a ton of XML, and then they're like, yeah, theoretically JSON might work for some of these things, but you know, I don't know. I think JSON's not really like legit. Yeah, that would be weird. But it you see that, and it's probably a very, very bad sign. Let's see, git commit video 114. So it looks like we'll probably be done. We'll probably be like tying everything off around video 130 would be my guess. Maybe 140, and then we'll be all. This thing will be. I'll go put it somewhere so we could play. So anyone who wants to could try to play with it, and then I'll maybe I'll go down to the API GitHub and try to try to go into their README or whatever where they have a list of websites that use the API, and see if they will, try to do a PR of my thing in there, see if that works. That would be kind of fun to see what happens. Video. I don't know that they'll accept it because it is a very Angular application, and I don't, that could just add some confusion. I do think they would gladly accept, even though they're Angular applications, the Say Hello and the flashcard builder. I think they would gladly accept both of those as examples of using the API. I don't know about this one. This one's a little too abstract, I think. Anyways, video 114 finishes or implements continuous. And if there's nothing else, I learned how to spell continuous. Continuous recording voice. Uh-oh. The term commit is not. Oh. And let's go ahead and push that. So that is available for anybody at Google Angular Web Speech Analyzer.get and the party. I don't know what that's called. I haven't been to GitHub in so long, and I don't even know if I can go because I know they sort of force you to use your phone to log in as a double. Let's see, space and time. Let's go to that one. See if I can go straight to that one. And then I click here. And man, that's been forever since I did that. It's kind of weird that they don't put your most recent one. Media system. I'm trying to build like Web Space Analyzer. I'm trying to build like a really good uploader that you can set up so that you can upload thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pictures and videos to a website. You know, because I feel like that's the biggest problem I have right now when it comes to media. Is I end up making thousands of thousands, tens of thousands of videos and things like that, and they're very difficult to share in a reliable way. If you use like third-party things, then you end up like when they go out of business or whatever, or they decide to monetize or something like that, you end up in a very vulnerable spot. But anyways, this is the one. And if we look at believe we can, yeah, we're in code, and then this is the commit I just made a second ago. And here's where it shows all the changes. And yeah, that's that. But anyways, yeah, so I guess this is a good time to kind of call it quits on this video. Next Saturday we'll start on getting this button working. I think we're going to have to do some refactoring of this, and that's probably the biggest thing that kicked off me needing to do a commit of that, is because like we know all this stuff works now, so it's a good time to make sure that, because this thing, I believe, like we did a search for it, but I think we can also do this. And so wild how, yeah, so this guy, it's in here, so we can go here and we can see where we're at. So this is sitting in the discrete, and it really needs to be elevated up to be like a peer of discrete and continuous, since it's going to be used in both. So it is crazy because, like, yeah, I totally guessed that the results would be consistent enough to share the same signal. And then I totally guessed that the settings would be inconsistent enough to not share the same component. And I was totally wrong on both. And the one, when I thought that the results, I had gotten in my head that the results would be consistent, that took me like probably a month, maybe even 6 weeks to undo the damage that had done, or to unwire that misconception in my brain. And then, but this figuring out that, oh, they could share the same thing. Super simple. No, no, no issue. And I guess that kind of speaks to how the brain works a little bit. Like if you had it in your head that, okay, a light bulb is a light bulb. I can just use any light bulb anywhere. Okay, let's just go down and buy a light bulb and give them the light bulb and then tell them to turn the lights on over there because their light bulb's out. And then you find out, no, there's like 100 different kinds of light bulbs. That is really, really, that if you had it in your head that all light bulbs are the same, that would probably be almost impossible. That would be very, very difficult for you to like kind of grasp, wait, there's multiple kinds of light bulbs. But if someone said, oh, okay, I have a wrench for my car. Okay, and then I have another wrench for my house. And then everyone's like, yeah, wrenches are the same. And we're like, oh, I can use my car wrench for my house? You're like, yeah, they're the same. You're fine. That, for some reason, is very easy to go, okay, cool. I have one wrench. So this is a situation where the settings are the same. So there's no reason to have different settings. And that, for some reason, is super simple for me to just grasp. But the results being different, that was very, very difficult for me to grasp. I don't really get it. But anyways, happy coded, everybody. Bye.